Everybody. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the live session, Web Vibes live session. And that is the first session in 2026. And
Woohoo!
Yes.
yes, so glad to see so many familiar faces. And winter is usually the season when many of you reflect and revisit your marketing strategy and sales strategy. And at Web Vibes, we also did the same. But the good news, our mission remains the same to empower wedding talents with all kinds of PR and marketing insights to help you to convert your talent into success and money. However, what we are changing slightly our live session strategy. And if you know, because I see that a lot of people join us not for the first time, that we used to more focus on inviting strong personal brands, wedding planners, photographers, like and other professionals. And now we are more incorporating all kinds of experts who will be sharing information about technologies, AI, websites, advertisement, and all kinds of insights on the back end of the business so you can apply and grow. And today, our session with Lauren about SEO is part of this movement. Lauren is the founder of Salted Pages. I know that a lot of you know this amazing project, and she is probably the most leading and strongest voice in the industry when it comes to SEO. And today, Lauren will be sharing not only how to grow your visibility with SEO strategy, but also how to adjust and strategize AI, because that is what Gen Z using, and of course millennials using today. And before we dive in, as a tradition, I will ask you to put in the chat your name, your location, and where are you joining from, because also the huge mission of ours to connect wedding talents from all over the world. So please be present and use this 1 hour as much as you can, taking notes and also connecting with each others and sharing your insights. And now I'm passing over to Daria to introduce Lauren in the best way and to
I will try to
share
do my
the
best. Yeah.
insights why you should listen carefully.
Yes, I'm super excited. It's like the one of the most anticipated sessions. So if by any chance you haven't met Lauren before, she's the founder, like Alina said, of Salted Pages, the copywriting agency behind some of the most beautifully written and beautifully ranked wedding websites you ever seen. And I know a lot of members of our community also used Lauren services. And since 2015, she's been helping creative entrepreneurs turn their websites from digital brochures into client magnets. We know that Lauren and her team worked with planners, photographers, videographers who've turned their passion into six-figure business. But her superpower is not just knowing how to write a compelling copy. It's about staying ahead of how couples actually search for wedding vendors. I'm super excited to find out how the search is changing fast. I'm sure you guys too. AI, we know, is changing even faster. So today she will walk us through what's actually happening behind the scenes, how couples are searching, choosing, how AI is reshaping visibility, and what matters and what doesn't when it comes to websites, blogs, and content. So welcome, Lauren. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, thank you. One thing Dory didn't mention is that she had found a lot of great information
Yes,
through AI, which
that's
is the
true.
whole conversation today. Like, because we have content out there about us and about our business, she was like, "Oh, Lauren, I found out that you don't like to cook and your husband
Yeah.
is a pilot." But these are things
So
that I
we're already
intentionally put
connected.
out there, right, to
Yeah.
create a common overlap. And so if there's nothing out there, there's nothing that AI can tell people about you. So, like, if that's the one thing you walk away with today, that's kind of it. But thank you for the fabulous introduction, you both.
Of course. Thank you for joining us. And yes, super excited. And the floor is yours.
Okay, beautiful. Well, welcome, welcome. I honestly love this Web Vibes community because there is so much beauty and meaning in this work. And this industry does make everything just feel so much smaller and intimate in the best way. We've had clients who've been abroad at a workshop and then they all realize that they've worked with us and they take a group photo and send it to me. So it's those kind of just like serendipitous, beautiful moments that I live for, in addition to helping you grow your business, get the kind of work you want to live the life that matters. So it's those beautiful things that I think are just so fun and impactful to see. And honestly, I feel like beauty is just better when it's shared. There's maybe a shared bottle of wine, a shared meal, a shared moment, a shared memory. But somehow sharing your work is an entirely different story. It can feel tedious, ineffective, and like talking into the abyss. So, not quite like this fun image that is shown here. So, today I'll be teaching you how to get your work seen through AI and through SEO because we're hearing it all the time. You're not getting a lot of traffic. If you are getting a lot of traffic, you're confused and you're overwhelmed. You're not sure what to shift. And if you're like me, you're just tired of the trend game and the kind of insincere aspects of that, and you just want to create meaningful, impactful work. And those are kind of the results that I am hooked on. I love beautiful things, but it's the decadent results that matter even more. And full disclosure moment, I think I posted on Instagram like 34 times last year. That's like once a month, give or take. And most of those were, hey, I'm taking time off, I'll be out of the office, or just proof of life. And I'm posting this because this is what I'm thinking about today and I want to share it with you. It wasn't things that I needed to post because I know that the work I've done on SEO, it's doing its job. Another just kind of fun side note is I take 2 months off every year. So 1 month maybe in like spring, another month in the fall. And there was 1 month that I didn't do any marketing. I was off, I was traveling, I was catching up on life. And we received 15 leads from people I've never met. That's what SEO can do for you. And then when you add to that, like people who do know you, who have heard of you, I know some people in this room know us, they know our brand name. That month we got 25 inquiries with our word of mouth referrals and the SEO inquiries. So that's kind of what we're going for here.
That's
So
a dream came true. Everyone's so hooked right now. Okay.
right. So, real quick, I'm Lauren. If you can't tell already, I believe in the kind of marketing that doesn't hound you, despite the fact that I do have a hound dog. I live in Fort Worth, Texas. I'm originally from Connecticut, and we're actually in the middle of probably moving to like the DC, Maryland area. So, if you're up there, please say hi and connect with me so we can get together in person. I did study journalism and I celebrated my own 10-year vow renewal last year in Saint-Tropez. So we, of course, flew out and had a whole destination vow renewal. Like, you can't be in this work and not celebrate in your own way. And then, of course, I do share an office with Nutmeg, but I also work with Amy. She's actually here in the call with us right now. She's been with me for almost 4 years now. I actually like have to go to events with her at my side because she's like the pepper to my salt in all of the best ways. So just kind of a fun little tidbit there about our team.
Hi,
But
Amy. We see you.
yeah.
Actually.
Hello.
So today I'll be going through three different phases. So there might be things in each that you're like, I don't want to do that. I don't care. But if you just hold on, there might be something else you can grab onto and really apply to your business. And if you're taking notes at the end of the call, just circle the one thing you want to do and put it in your calendar so that you actually make an impact with what we're sharing. So, first off, I'll be just giving you a digestible overview of what in the world is happening right now with AI and ChatGPT. And then we'll get into explaining how to increase your chances of getting cited by AI while also just improving overall kind of traditional Google rankings. And then we'll get into the refinement stage. So just tailoring that process to get the inquiries that you want. Plus, my favorite part, tracking it, like actually seeing the results, seeing the data. One thing you could put on your list right now is asking on your contact form, how did you hear about me? And make sure that like AI, ChatGPT, Google, that those are options in there. And that's a really just quick and easy way to see if people are even finding you in those, newer or different platforms. And then if you stick around, we are giving away a free little AI search checklist. That way you have something tangible to just go through and cross off as you update your website and other materials out there. So back in the day when I taught about SEO or search engine optimization, this was kind of the core thesis that I got to focus on, but now there's more. So we'll start first with this because it does still exist. We typically had two categories of content in Google. We had organic content. So this means that maybe your website showed up because you had great content, it was relevant, it was helpful, and it fed into the algorithm in the right way. So that's the organic side of things. Then there was the paid side of things that's still around, right? So you can pay to have your website show up when someone types in a specific phrase or keyword into Google. So that's kind of the paid SEO side of things. So that used to be the main area that we had to focus on. And the big goal for a lot of businesses was clicks. The name of the game was getting those clicks. So if we look at this, you would Google something, you would look at different websites. If you're like me, you actually open those in different tabs. That's why so many websites got so many different clicks and views. So you kind of pop those open, you get all these different tabs open to compare and research different options. Some websites you stay on longer than others, some don't even work, so you click away from them immediately. And that's why we all were doing pretty good when it came to website traffic because we had to open those different tabs. But now, it's this AI overview, this little summary that guides you to just three different websites and maybe a few more beyond that if you really want to do some digging. So this has really changed the game from getting clicked on to getting cited. So, a couple of things to think about when it comes to this. Clicks are down because of this. You don't have to click and open all of those different tabs and look at all of those different websites because the answer is right there. I don't need to click on anything if all I was wondering is what is a documentary wedding photographer? It's right there and it's explained to me. So, because of this, according to Ahrefs, those clicks to your website because of these AI overviews has gone down by about 34%. This is also kind of why people started to call it an answer engine
Mhm.
optimization because you're getting an answer. But to be honest, that's all still the same. SEO, AEO, GEO. People are just trying to get funky with their marketing. But to be honest, one of the jokes that I heard recently is that our kids and grandkids will think it was so archaic and old fashioned that Google was a list of websites. They will think that that's crazy, that that's what like the internet and all of these like amazing things were, was a giant list of blue links. So bear
Yeah.
that in mind. It is a lot more practical, a lot more functional, and it starts to feel a little bit more like, you know, those space series and movies where you have just the computer and you can ask a question and you get that answer right there. So the good news with all of this is that if you are featured, conversions are usually higher. So if your website is the one that is cited here, it's going to be better for you. The bad news is instead of there being like 10 different websites there, now we're really guided to just three. So that's why that goal really has changed from getting clicked on to getting cited. And I'll be teaching you how to get cited. So, just to recap, if you noticed a major drop in your website traffic, you're not alone. It's because you don't have to click anymore. The answer is right there. One interesting thing is that when some of these major shifts were happening, there was a period of time where views were going up. So, more and more people were searching, but clicks were going down. They kind of called this like the great decoupling of SEO. It's gotten better now because Google realized like they still have ads and they still have clients that need those clicks, but it's just been a very interesting time. The other thing to note is that Google has started to face its real competition in a long time. So with ChatGPT, when a couple is looking for a planner or a florist, they might not be going to Google first. And that's a pretty big shift to open ChatGPT and have like a conversation there with a chatbot to try to find their vendors and do research and get ideas. That's very different. So Google facing some competition is a big thing to consider as you think about how people can find you. And the other fact to consider here is that there's kind of been this entering of the Wild West when it comes to real data. So a lot of people, as AI and ChatGPT has become the new way to get found, they start advertising, hey, we're going to make sure that you can absolutely be the one that's credited and cited here. But to be honest, it's so new. And because there are private subscriptions where your information is not available for research, that's actually made it harder for people to see the true numbers behind searches. So just keep that in mind. A lot of things are muddy, vague, and unknown because you're paying for a private like search or AI subscription. So really interesting things to consider here. And then last but not least, answers have become more tailored. So because if I was like a couple and I'm getting married, because I can go into Google or into Gemini or ChatGPT and have more of this conversation about a florist or a wedding photographer, a lot of the answers are a bit more targeted. And this is good news for smaller, really niche, really unique brands if you're putting it out there. So let's say like you're a documentary wedding photographer, you specialize in black and white, 35 millimeter photographs, you're based in DC. Like if you are very clear about these things on your website and on Instagram, if there's a couple who's looking for that very person, you're able to get better results because of AI and because of these kind of chatbot conversations. Because you can go in and say, I want a wedding photographer in DC. I want someone who does 35 millimeter photography, right? So they're able to like just go in there and get really targeted answers that lead them directly to you if you're even talking about those things. So, what do we do? I would say first, take a breath. Search is changing, but people are still searching. They're using what is at their fingertips to find the best person for them. And it's not like they're not there or they're not accessible. It's just that the rule book is just slightly rewritten right now. And to be honest, the more I look into it, the more I just see how much fear mongering is out there. SEO is not dead. In fact, there are a couple of different ways that we can take back that control and increase visibility. So I would say your website is one of the best places to take control and increase visibility, but also platforms like YouTube, Reddit, Instagram, where you can post content. And of course, Web Vibes gets a shout out for this publications and placement that illustrate high authority. When people talk about you who have good reputations in and of themselves, that's really great for you, and AI loves that. But all in all, most of these roads will lead back to your website. And nowadays, the websites that do get clicked on from AI, people spend about 68% more time on your website from that AI referral than they would have back in the day with traditional search. So if you think of like those 10 different tabs I had open, I was just skimming, scrolling through, just trying to find the website that gives me the impression and the information that I need. But now I'm getting three tailored recommendations, or maybe Gemini's giving me like a really cool list of people that work well for me. And I'm going to spend more time on those websites because they already fit my needs better in the first place. So, what can you do so that your website is the one that is featured? I would say to be quotable. So, if you look through your website and you're like, I've got one paragraph on this entire website. That's all the AI, Google, that's all that couples have to be able to find you. And that's not a lot. And think about it. The end result is that little summary at the top of Google or maybe getting talked about in Gemini. So, how can you be the one that is referenced there? So, A, just making sure you're actually talking the talk, putting out there what you want ChatGPT to say about you. If ChatGPT were to describe your business, what would it say? It's typically going to pull from the things that you've put out there. Let's say, like, you taught something like this and you submitted a bio. It'll probably find that bio. It'll probably quote like your Instagram profile. If you're in a chamber of commerce, it'll grab your profile description from there. So just putting out the information you want people to know about you. One action item here would be playing around with this in ChatGPT or in Gemini, asking it about yourself and your business, your brand. Hey, what can you tell me about Cited pages? What do they do? What are they known for? How do they compare to competitors? What it's saying is typically what it's finding. And if you don't like what it's putting back to you, chances are you can change that by adding more or different content on your website or on your blog. So here's some ideas of things that you can mention, the locations that you work in, any awards that you've won, your years of experience. AI takes a lot at face value. It's not totally doing a lot of fact checking. It can't like come to your door and interview you. So because of that, it does have to take things pretty much as they stand, surface value. If you say, I'm an award-winning wedding planner, great. If someone's looking for that, then you're more likely to be suggested in that area. So just try to incorporate those resume items that showcase your authority. I think authority is honestly like if you were to circle a word right now, showcasing authority is like the real big thing that AI loves to grab onto. If AI had a palate or like a taste, it would think that authority is like the most scrumptious thing ever. So then if we look at a little checklist here, as you saw, a lot of the content in that little summary at the top of Google was in bullet points. This doesn't mean your entire website needs to be in bullet points, but when you can use bullet points and you can make it skimmable and easy, that is fantastic. And then if you do have paragraphs, which of course your website should have paragraphs, how else do they know who you are, what you do, or that you are a pescatarian? Well, you'll put that in your paragraph. You just don't want the paragraph to be too long because that's not very human friendly. No one wants to read a paragraph that's this long, but AI also likes things that are just structured well. That's usually like a green flag to them. And then FAQs, that's another thing that for the longest time, my high-end clients have not necessarily loved an FAQ, but AI nowadays does love an FAQ because that's what people are doing. They're asking questions within these platforms. So if you're able to add an FAQs that says like, what locations do you serve in? What do you specialize in? Just things like that. It doesn't have to be what's your rescheduling, fee. Those are things that we do not need to have on your public facing website. So just bear that in mind. And then we also want things to be easy to view. So your desktop and your mobile version need to be easy to navigate. And when possible, try to put answers in the first 40 to 60 words. That applies a little bit more to things like your blog posts. But same thing with like a services page. If they want to see information about your services, I often find that people ramble a lot and they get a little bit too ooey gooey and fluffy and they don't really describe, well, what do you do? Are you an elopement photographer? Are you a wedding photographer? Are you a florist? Do you offer a la carte? Like we need to just be really clear and straightforward here. And then last but not least, this is a whole other rabbit hole, but we just want things to be technically sound. So if you've ever heard of header tags, it's time to go back and make sure that the header tags on your website are up to snuff. Ultimately, that's kind of just like the back end structure that AI and other platforms will crawl through to then be able to pull that information. So if your website isn't structurally sound like that, then it's going to be difficult for your website to be the one that is credited and mentioned at all. So, and then, of course, for our clients who don't have a lot of publications, awards, you don't have crazy social media followings, your blog can be the top driver of inquiries outside of word of mouth. To be honest, anytime that my business is a little bit slow, I will go and post a blog or I will go back and update an old one. Like that is how I take control and really increase the traffic to my website because I know it's going to work. It's kind of like real estate. Every page on your website is like a piece of land or property that you own. So the more that you have, the more entryways and paths that you have into your website and into your brand. So if your website's only 5 pages, that's not a lot for like AI and ChatGPT to really pull from. So bear that in mind. Do we have any questions up to this point that I should address? It's hard for me to read the chat as we go. So I want to pause and see if there's anything, Daria.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
there is a great question. Okay, there you go ahead.
yeah, from Blake. If I write a FAQ page but don't make it publicly navigable in the navigation bar, will it still help with AI search?
Ooh, I think if I write an FAQ page but don't make it publicly navigable in the nav bar, AI and like SEO and just in general don't love pages that can't be found. It does need to be linked somewhere. So maybe it's a blog post. I would put it as a blog post that people can then find within the blog. It's hard when you have this like floating page that's not connected to anything else. Like if you're not linking to it, why would AI or Gemini feel like they need to link to it? And I do like the idea from Alex of like putting it in the footer. You could also maybe on a services page talk about FAQs and then you could say read more and that read more button takes them to the page. We just want to link to it from somewhere so it's not just floating in the website universe. It's called internal linking where basically Google likes it when your website has a nice little network and things can be found from one another. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense. Because,
Perfect.
like, from what I understand, it's not only about FAQ, it's pretty much goes to the structure, right? It's not only bullet points, but a piece of information. It's good if it has a like separate landing page on your website rather than one long read.
Mm-hmm.
Is it correct, Lauren?
One long landing page. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh
It's
no.
one of those things where it needs to be helpful. If someone opens that page, is it so much or is there no table of contents that it's frustrating and
Mm-hmm.
annoying? But I can also tell you that super long form content is currently more likely to be credited and cited. So it's just one of those things that it's like in-depth content is great, but just make sure it's organized well. Add a table of
Hmm.
contents, add header tags. I just wouldn't make main pages like an about page or a contact page. I wouldn't make those super long because then you're kind of getting in the way of conversions because there's just too much information to sift through. So on your blog, go as long as you want if it's organized well, but on main pages where we're trying to just get them to contact
Mm-hmm.
you, don't ramble, would be my suggestion. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
thank you.
Guadalupe, I see your question, but let's leave it to the Q&A section. It's about
Okay.
blogs. Like let's continue and yeah.
Okay, perfect. I just want to make sure we pause there.
Mhm.
Okay, so one other tip here as we think about your blog is I would love it if you would build an author page. That is one of the things that I did myself, I think last month as I was doing more research on this and trying to figure out like what can someone do to move the needle and increase the chances of getting cited. it's having an author page. And by that, I mean, if you have a blog, so you're already creating content, you have this resource on your website, have a little sidebar that says like your name, has a little bio, and then it could say like read more. And then it takes them to this little author page about you and about your brand. It's a really, really big green flag for Google and for AI right now. It shows transparency and clarity and that authority and expertise that we keep talking about. So add an author page if you can. There's some cool plugins for this as well, or you can just create a custom page if you're on Show It. If you want a sample of this, just email or DM me and I can send you our author page. It's short, it's sweet, and it does make a pretty big difference. And then another thing, if you do have a blog, I would add a date on each post because that also increases your chances of getting mentioned because AI is looking for things that are recent and relevant. They don't want to quote something that's from 10 years ago that wouldn't apply to
Mm.
today's couple. So having a date on your blog post, it doesn't need to be in the URL, but just at the top of the blog or at the bottom of the blog, somewhere where AI can crawl and see like, oh, this was from January 2026. So it is like hot off the press. So those are two things that I would do to make sure that your blog is impactful. And then just kind of dive into the blog side of things. What do we talk about? The work's already there. You have the kind of work you want, and you have the work that the weddings that you've already completed. So I have some examples here for you. So it's a great time to kind of tune in if you have a blog or want to start a blog, but you just don't know where to begin. So let's start with location. We hear it all the time. We have clients who are like, I want to book more weddings, Lauren, at museums and at gardens. Well, then blog about historic venues in your city or in your state. That's a great way to get that kind of client. Let's say you want to work in Napa Valley. We'll create a guide on where to get married in Napa Valley. Or let's say you want to book destination weddings in France. And in fact, we actually helped one of our clients do this with one blog post. But you can talk about, your guide to destination wedding in Nice or the best venues in the French Riviera. You don't have to have been there, but you can do some research. You can use AI. You can maybe take the photos from that one trip that you had there last summer, and you can make that work so long as it's helpful, it's giving them unique information and answering their question. And then values, that's another big area of alignment for us, especially with weddings. You don't want to work just any wedding. So maybe you're just tired of weddings that are a little bit sad when it comes to the design. You want lots of beautiful flowers. Well, then talk about the 2026 wedding flower trends or showcase all these different photos of these beautiful floral tablescapes. Same thing with like dresses and outfits, attire. You want couples who have luxury wedding dresses. We'll talk about the best wedding dress designers, right? Like we can really connect what you want with the content that we're putting out there.
Showcase what you want to attract. We
Mhm.
always mention it and
It's
Yes,
everywhere
super.
in Instagram, on website. Just talk about the things that you love, showcase it, and people will follow it. Yeah.
exactly. And then the vendor side of things, maybe there's a specific planner you want to work with. See if they're hosting a styled shoot or a workshop, or maybe there's a podcast. Go and listen to that, comment on it, tell them you really appreciate it. Just kind of build those relationships. And then maybe you want more referrals from videographers and you have some videographers you're a big fan of. You would love your couples to work with them. We'll create a post on your blog or on Instagram about some of the videographers in your area to keep an eye out for, right? We can talk about these things, we can put it all out there. And then when it comes to the content you already have, one big mistake we see is taking one wedding and blogging that. And that's fine. And sometimes it can make a difference. But if you've worked at that venue multiple times, typically couples want to see diversity. They want to see this black and white theme and then that fun, really playful art forward theme all at the same venue to give that couple an idea of what's possible. Meanwhile, it's showcasing your work and your professionalism. So blog multiple weddings in one post, and that'll help you get more traffic for specific venues. And then you could do the same thing with details and trends. I know you probably have a million photos of like tablescapes, stationery, luxury shoes. Well, those are things that you can put together a post about and talk about those different trends. And then vendors, tag them, link to them in your blog. It's called a backlink when you take someone else's name and website and link back to their website. And it's actually really great for Google. And typically vendors, they may not know that you're doing that, but it's just one of those what goes around comes around sort of things. And then a couple of other tips here. If you're not sure what to share, you can ask your audience. You could even look to AI and just go to Gemini and be like, I am a florist who is in DC and I want to connect with couples who do this. Just kind of have that conversation and see what ideas come up. And then a couple of other fun tips. You can set a timer. You can treat yourself as you're working on this. You can use voice to text. Remember that one blog post can also be a newsletter. It could be 10 Instagram posts. Like there's so much. It can be Pinterest pins. That's why I pretty much start all of our marketing with a blog because it just funnels into every other little thing that you can do. And then one last little note on this. I wish I could have just spent a whole other hour talking about keywords, but keywords still matter. So back in the day of like traditional search, people really focused on what are people typing into Google? How can I rank for that? So there are some really great tools for this, and you can look at what's ranking, how competitive it is, have you used it before? And I'm going to skip over to this next slide here, and I'm doing this intentionally because this is really where you'll find the most help is looking into the tools that are there. So Ubersuggest is one of my favorites. And then I also recommend Google Keyword Planner. That's Google itself telling you what people are typing in, how many times a month is someone typing that into Google, how easy or difficult it is it to rank for. You can also, go into Pinterest, Instagram hashtags, things like that. And then of course we have our own services where we can help with it. So, some common mistakes, things not to do. So, remove these from your list. A would be having websites that are just too sparse. So, if you have an about page with less than 300 words of content, that's your goal. Get at least 300 words on that about page. The other big issue we see is just optimizing for the same thing on multiple pages. So I know you really want to rank as a California wedding florist, but if that's the only thing that you're using across your entire website, you're kind of limiting yourself. Typically, each individual page can rank for something different. Your services page can rank for that type of service. Your contact page can maybe rank more for the region that you're in. So just try not to use the same phrase over and over because you're trying to get every page to rank for it, because that doesn't usually happen. And then the other issue we see is trying to rank for super competitive content. So we have some newer businesses that come to us and they say, I want to be number one. I want to be number one on Google tomorrow. But normally you're not going to be number one for the most broad term, but you could be the first one to show up in ChatGPT and in Google for more of the like the niched, unique things. Or if you're just sharing helpful content, like the most beautiful garden venues in San Francisco, boom, like let's do it. And then don't copy others. Don't take a keyword that you found with all that research and put it everywhere. We still need to be human. And then one other issue on just like the technically sound side of things, on the H tag side of things, make sure you only use one H1 tag per page. If you don't know what I mean by that, Google it. And we have a blog post that you might be able to find if you look up salted pages and header tags. So a couple of warnings and just flags here. AI right now isn't the best for finding proven keywords. I like to jump into Gemini and ChatGPT to kind of just use it as a sounding board and see like ideas from it, but sometimes it gives me back keywords that then I plug into my other tools like Google's own keyword planner, and it'll say there are 0 searches for that keyword. So just take it with a grain of salt. It might suggest some things that don't really work. And then, of course, we don't want to just copy and paste things as is. If you're using AI to create that content, I got to be honest with you, human produced content is currently the priority in AI results and in Google results. So if you're just using purely the robotic slush that's coming out, it's usually not going to rank as well. So use it as a tool, but don't use it as the final draft. Okay, so you're tired of hearing about the blog. Let's talk about other things that you can do. And maybe you don't have a blog, and that's fine. There's more we can do, or we can combine all of these different strategies together. So right now, platforms like Reddit and YouTube are some of the top cited websites for AI. So those are some interesting things to get into. Maybe it's time to start posting on YouTube or getting into Reddit. And of course, using social media. Some people's Instagram profiles currently rank higher than their websites. So that means you need to make sure your Instagram is up to par. So some interesting things going on there. And then this is one of my favorite things is mentions. So back to the authority piece. AI loves it when other people are talking about you, other people are recommending you. This is one of the ways that it can fact check a little bit better. But just to make sure that if you're getting onto someone's directory or onto their recommended vendor list, that it's a public page. We see a lot of times things like download my free vendor list, but that download will not help those other businesses when it comes to AI and SEO rankings. So if you're joining and paying for some of these things, make sure that your directory profile is something that can be found on Google and it's not just some like downloaded piece that AI just cannot find. So this is a great page two screenshot just to recap. We got to talk the talk. We got to tap into other audiences and share great content, remembering that that human created content is currently prioritized. In fact, I have some data here that 86% of the results are primarily human written and only 14% are from AI produced content. And then one other thing to note here is that people are starting to lean a little bit more into mistakes. So if someone reads a blog post and there is a spelling error on that blog post, people see that as a good thing, or at least they're starting to, because it means AI probably didn't do it. AI doesn't really make spelling mistakes. I see Alex nodding here. So that's kind of an interesting to think about is it doesn't have to be as perfect anymore. Use more of like your stream of consciousness thinking, be human, be interesting. And one last pro tip that wasn't anywhere in these slides is remember the verbal component. People a lot of times are saying, hey Siri, hey Google, and they're asking a question, and that answer is verbalized back to them. That's also really great for accessibility. So think that through like, is the content you're creating something that could be literally verbally quoted and used on someone's smartphone as it's talking back to them? So that verbal content, it's kind of like we're in the radio era again, and we need things to be a little bit more voice forward. All right, so as we wrap up here, we'll share just a little bit about how to tailor and track those results. A couple more ideas for your website. This is one of our clients, but you could do a portfolio page. So instead of each individual gallery being like a pop-up of images, I want each gallery to open a different URL, a different page that has a review, it has information about the wedding, the venue, multiple photographs, and that can really drive more traffic to your website and help couples see, wow, look at this beautiful design this planner put together, or look at this custom dance floor, right? Like we can talk about it if we have a specific page for it. Same thing with location pages. There are St. Regis hotels all over the world, but they don't have just one page. They have a page for their Mexico Punta Mita location. They have a page for this other location across the water. So bear that in mind. You can do the same thing for your business. You can add a DC page to the footer. You can add a California page to the footer, so long as that page has helpful content, samples of your work, reviews, things of that nature. And we've already talked about it enough, but blog posts, that's another way that you can tailor that action plan. So, a couple of last notes here is that this content, no matter what you do, where you post it, Instagram, Reddit, Pinterest, you don't want to just join the conversation. You want to add to it. That's how you can stand out. If you hate writing, try to join a podcast, become a guest, maybe get some help from AI. Just don't copy and paste it directly. And if you don't even ever want to work on your website ever, maybe just make sure Instagram is really great and create a 5-star Google business profile if you can. And as you track the data here, just remember Googling yourself and ChatGPTing yourself isn't quite the answer. I think it's a good way to see what and how things show up, but it's not going to give you the data that really matters. So if you do care about seeing charts like this and understanding what the trend is on your own website, I recommend this free tool. It's called Google Search Console, but that is something where you can see how your website is ranking. It's different than Google Analytics. I call it the sister to Google Analytics, but this is a great way to see the full numbers there. And then because ChatGPT and Gemini have a lot of private subscriptions and you can't see what people are typing in, you can use Google Analytics to see if ChatGPT is a referring website to your website. So that's a way that you can see if they're finding you from ChatGPT. And then, like I said earlier, contact form. If you hate numbers and hate analytics, at least ask on your contact form, how did you hear about me? And then you can start to see the trends and see what is working. And if you're doing all of the above and you can see that people are coming to your website, but they're not inquiring with you, well, then audit your website. Make sure that your brand messaging is talking in a connective way, it's speaking to the right people, it's clear, and that your website on the mobile version, like so many times we critique people's websites at events that we go to, and we pull out our phone and we see our clients start to cringe because they know that their mobile website is just not what it should be. But most people are looking at websites on mobile, so it needs to be
Yeah.
up to par. So That's why we blend SEO with storytelling to just bring all of the above SEO, AI, ChatGPT. We can get them there, but it's also the look and feel that converts. And we need your words to make it a sure thing. So before we jump into the FAQs, I did want to give you all this free little AI search checklist. It'll give you some things that are a recap of today, but also some new ideas that you can absolutely take and run with. And if you have any questions or just need some support, we are an open book. This is our busiest time of year. Your low season is our high season, but definitely just reach out and we will try to get back to you as soon as we can. So, questions for me as you circle your action item, remember, put it in your calendar.
Yeah, thank you so much. This is like such a
Thank you, Lauren.
beautiful and amazing content. And I see lots of questions. We kind of, I think you answered the question number one in terms of the help of ChatGPT to write blogs.
Mhm.
So the basic answer, like, it has to come from you, but you can polish it, right? In terms of like,
You could do either or. You could start with a keyword that you found with
Mhm.
some of those research tools and then write down your ideas and your perspectives. But then you can go and ask ChatGPT and kind of combine all of that together. You could start just with ChatGPT, but then you go in and you don't just polish, like add your 2 cents. Like if your client were to read that, does it really have your opinion? Does it really contain anything different? That's kind of the problem is that it's taking and just regurgitating and putting things together. And I find that if you truly read through it, I think people get distracted because it can put together grammatically correct sentences, but I find that the meaning is oftentimes not there at all. Like if you really try to literally understand what they're saying, it doesn't make any sense to a living, breathing human who are your clients. So bear that in mind.
And I
Absolutely.
will build
Yeah.
on the question because there is not only about ChatGPT, there is a question about WordPress.
Yes.
WordPress offers sentence correction in blocks and gives it a green mark if there are any mistake etc. Should we start to ignore that a bit or not?
It depends on you and your brand, and if your client would see those spelling and grammar mistakes as a reason not to trust you. Because two years ago, if someone were to see something like an error or an issue, they would think, "Oh, this person's not a professional." And so, if your client's younger, if your client's that super kind of younger generation, maybe keep it a little more raw. You know, we don't want them to say that's AI. So that's kind of how I would bear it. But if it's an older audience that you're working with, I would keep it a little bit more polished.
Okay, thank guys. We're always rooting for like the real life, almost real life conversations. So if you want to, you can raise your hand and unmute yourself and ask a question
Ooh.
yourself. But I'm going to continue with some of the questions I saw in the chat. That was the question from Diane. What is the easiest plug or tip for WordPress to show the latest updates to your blog? I have some evergreen content that does need updates now and then, but I want to let readers to know it's current for 2026, even though I wrote it 4 years ago.
Okay, so one thing you can do is if you update the content in your blog, you can change the publication date because you're right. Like if you've truly gone through and revised it and it's relevant to right here, right now, you can change the publication date to be, January 2026 or whatever time that is that you're updating it. Or sometimes what I do, because I like some content where it says, oh, Lauren wrote this, like she covered this topic 7 years ago. So what I'll do is I'll go in and at the top of the post, I'll just put a little star and I'll say last updated January 2026. That way you get the best of both worlds of like, yes, I've been an expert in this since 2023 or 2021, but I also went back and made this more relevant to just now. So it kind of depends on the piece of content, but those are two ways to go about it.
Alex, I see the question from you. Do you want to like?
Oh yeah, I will chime in just for a second. Lauren, I
Yeah.
also believe you can submit your page through the Google Search Console to get it indexed, right? So like also
Yes.
maybe one other way to update it.
Yes. I actually have a blog post. I'm going to ask Amy, can you find the blog post on submitting a sitemap? Or if you just go to our blog and look on our search for submitting sitemap, we have a whole post about this. But yes, one of the key things that you can do to make sure Google and AI can even find your website is to basically submit like an index of your website to Google to say, hey, this is my website. It exists. Please make sure that people can find it. So I highly recommend doing that. And if you can't find it, just DM me on Instagram and I'll get you that direct link.
Just shared it in the chat for
Yeah,
everyone.
perfect.
Thank
So,
you,
guys, I
Amy.
encourage you to copy and paste it. There is
Yes.
another great question from Blake, very technical, but I guess you're the right person to take it to answer properly. So, you've mentioned checking for multiple H1 tags. If my current website template automatically makes my blog titles H1s on the category or home page, should I prioritize changing the template code, or is it only a problem on the individual post pages?
Yeah, that's a great question, Blake. And I would say go in and change the code because having multiple H1s on a page is kind of like having multiple like books on a page. And you're like, these are all the titles, but there's only one book that we're talking about here. So I would update the code because you only want one H1 on that page. But then, Blake, when people click on that blog post and then they open that individual page for the blog, then yes, that's perfect if the blog title is the H1. We just don't want the homepage to have every single blog title to be the H1 because that's confusing and it will probably have a negative impact on SEO.
Great.
I
Love it.
also saw the question about the Pinterest. I don't believe we mentioned Pinterest so much. Reddit, YouTube, podcasts, yes, but what do you think? What's your take?
Pinterest, I think, is a interesting platform. It's also a search platform, but it's more of a visual search platform. So
Yes.
if your client, like you might even know this, if your clients, when they talk to you and they inquire with you, are they mentioning Pinterest? Do they say, "Oh, I'll send you my Pinterest board"? I know one of my good friends is getting married and she has a Pinterest board. So if that's something your clients are using, then I do think that's an area to tap into. You can pin your blog posts on Pinterest. That's what we have in our workflow. Anytime we post a blog, we pin some of the content on Pinterest to then get more people back to our website. And then you can also use the Pinterest categories or those boards. You can use those as like SEO categories. So let's say you like work in DC, you could have a one on DC wedding venues. You could have one on documentary style wedding videos and like add all of your videos as like GIFs in there, right? So there's some cool things you can do on Pinterest if that's where your audience is. Otherwise, I wouldn't spend too much time on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, another technical question from Katya. How many photos per wedding works best? I assume, like mentioned in the gallery.
Hmm.
Mhm.
I love this question.
Is there any limit? Like,
The
does it just
limit is what would be annoying to people as they view your website. I call it the Goldilocks effect. We don't want too much or too little. We want just right. I found that 40, if you have like three images in a row, kind of on top of each other, feels like a good amount. And then another big tip here would be to optimize your images. So we never want to upload a print resolution image because it will slow down your website. And it means, I don't know if you saw, but on one of those websites that I opened on the tabs, it didn't load. So having really high resolution images means that I'm probably not going to stick around on your website and neither will AI or Google. So make sure that you're compressing those images. There's some really cool tools for that. But just a little other factor there to consider as you upload them. But I like 40 and I like to just on desktop and mobile scroll through them and think through like if I'm someone who's looking to get married and needing insights and inspiration, how much scrolling am I going to do on this one page? How little is that scroll bar? Just think about it from the user experience perspective, and that'll help you curate it down to the right amount.
I totally like agree because it's less speaking of the SEO, more about consumer experience. Once they find this page with your gallery, make the experience the best. And also, I also see two questions about Reddit.
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
So what do you think overall on Reddit, the approach and as a channel overall?
Yeah,
And
the best
yeah.
way to
yeah,
utilize it. I love the mentioned that a lot of boards actually prohibit vendors from directly mentioning them yourself as a solution, and
I
it's true.
know.
So
yeah, that's why
how
they ask
should
friends
you?
to mention
Yes,
themselves.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that's
How
a
would you
proven
approach it?
strategy, probably.
Yeah, I know. Reddit is one of those things that like we joined, and when you join, they say like, do you want an anonymous handle or do you want to use a branded handle? But by the way, like that'll stick around forever. So there's even pros of cons of posting anonymously versus as a brand. But to be honest, it's a whole other strategy and game out there. I find because it's got its own kind of game and system you have to play and get into, and like you said, there are some rules and things you cannot do. I find that it's better for research. Like, what are couples asking? What are other people saying? And maybe that's something you could post about on Instagram or on your blog or have a podcast episode and be like, people are debating what, this flash or blur trend, like how long is that going to stick around? Like maybe that's something you can pull from and then be the expert on that topic and create a resource. So maybe you're not joining the conversation in Reddit, but you're using it to see what the conversation is like.
Thank you. Okay, so another question. Let's take maybe like two or three more, and because I see like they are flowing, they keep going. It's like such an interesting topic. Okay, so on the blog, should I prioritize storytelling text for humans, or should I focus more on a technical, then new keywords for Google? What do you think AI prefer that and looks through the blogs?
I would say so back in the day when I taught SEO, I would have to say use your key, find a keyword and use the keyword 3 times on a standard length blog post. So a blog post that's like 300, 500 words, use the keyword 3 times on that page. With the changes now, and as technology just gets better and smarter, it's less about using the keyword a certain amount of times, and it's more about still using the language where people can find you. I still think you have to use that keyword or use that phrase that people are typing in. But then I would lean more into like the human forward storytelling information. But again, in a skimmable way. It's one of those things where there's a lot that we have to do here. We need to be human. We need to have our unique perspective. But if you can incorporate statistics, data, AI loves seeing some data in there. The I, we perspective is something that we've seen prioritized heavily with AL, that if you use the first person perspective of I, like I am a photographer, I've seen this, or we do this and we've noticed that. That's something that is a little bit more prioritized, is having that kind of human perspective. So there's kind of just like a give and take. I would still use keywords and I would still put them there. I used to say like if you want to rank for vegan chocolate chip brownie recipes, you kind of have to say that. Otherwise, no one knows that that's what the recipe is for. Same thing
Mm-hmm.
here.
True. So like the best of both worlds, like 50-50, like
Yes.
data plus the storytelling. And does AI actually pick up on social media right now? Can it read like Instagram or TikTok?
It depends on if your profile is public or not, but I think most of us with our businesses, we have it public.
Public.
And go for it.
Yeah, it's public, of course, because
Yes,
this is
yes.
how people want to be seen.
And then honestly, I do think that it is something that is starting to get credit and cited more. Even on Google, we're starting to see people's Instagram profiles showing up before their own websites. So it's super fascinating. I also do want to go back to Blake's question that we were just discussing about storytelling and technical
Yeah.
focus.
Hmm.
The one big thing I would say, Blake, too, on that as you're writing content is just answer the question early on and or provide a summary early on. AI, Google, and people love that. Like I want to open the post. I don't want to see this dragging story about your grandma, but I do want to see, hey, I'm going to cover XYZ. This is why it matters. Here's a table of contents. You can click down to whatever you want to see and let's get into it. So like get to the point and provide a nice summary and table of contents. And that provides both technical items, but also it's very human friendly because we can get to the information and not have to beat around the bush.
Yeah,
Lauren,
absolutely.
I have a question for you. It's my personal question, not from
Okay.
the chat. So we spoke about the website and the blog posts, and also there is a tool of like having a business on the Google Maps, right? You
Mhm.
kind of set up business and it's visible on Google Maps and you have reviews. And I had my personal experience when I was preparing for some webinars. I tried to chat GPT like California wedding photographers, Carmel wedding photographers, and what ChatGPT gave me links to Google businesses, not to the
Mhm.
website. So what's your experience with that? How, like, is it helpful to, I mean, guess it's helpful, but how it speaks with website and overall visibility and AI
Yeah.
search?
Alina, I love that question. And it's funny because I actually have that in our AI checklist that we have shared with you guys. But basically, I do recommend having a Google business profile. It's one of those things that, especially on your phone, search will give you like local recommendations. So if I look up a florist, if I look up a planner, it'll take my location and give me some recommendations for nearby. So having a profile is key. You don't need a physical address. You can just like put a region. I have my profile online and no one knows where I live. So it's totally safe and secure. And then my tips would be keep the information up to date. So if you're not working on marathon, like yesterday's holiday, put that as an off day. Add any phone number that is relevant, add a great description. So when you think about what AI says about you, your Google description, that's another great place to talk about your business and what you do in a way that AI and Gemini and everything can pull from it and quote you and put you in front of the very people you want to see you.
So just I will add on. If you are destination wedding photographer, what like it's your advice just to put the business in the most desired destination? Let's say if you live in Tennessee and you want to work in New York, you should be New York wedding photographer, right?
That's normally how it goes. Sometimes you can add multiple locations in the same profile or create a different profile for each location. You think of like McDonald's is what comes to mind. Like the McDonald's in my town will show up on my phone, but if I'm traveling, I'll find the McDonald's in that area. So they
Mm-hmm.
have a different profile for each franchise location. But I find that a lot of small business owners, for whatever reason, have trouble with this, or it'll delete their old profile and delete like their reviews on the first location that they listed in. So that's why I like to, like you said, pick my main region and put that on my one profile. And then I also will use the blogs and like Pinterest and things like that to drive traffic for those other locations and those other regions.
There is a question. Can you hide your address in Google Business?
So yeah, I would you basically go in there. I think it says like I don't have a physical storefront or I don't serve customers
Hmm.
at a physical storefront. You kind of check or uncheck that, and then you just select a region. What region do you serve customers in? And then you're able to pick like a city, state, whatever that might
Mm-hmm.
be. So don't go too broad. If you work in Manhattan but not like all over New York, just put Manhattan, right? You want to be very specific there.
Okay, great.
Yeah, Alex just mentioned that you can mention just the country or state. Uh,
Yep.
be not that specific. Okay. I feel like we're coming to the end of the hour. So thank you so much. Thank you, Lauren. Thank you, Amy, for such a like incredible dive into the world of AI and the world of SEO. I'm also going to mention like and to put this link here in the chat, so it's going to be maybe easier for you to click on it or do the screenshot of this checklist and try and use it. And right now it's time, yes, to say your thank yous for the session today to Lauren. And yeah, people are thanking you and they are super grateful and amazed by all the
And
useful
thank you, Lauren,
information.
again.
Yes.
Thank you, Amy. And thanks everyone for your questions because I believe our slightly change in strategy, talking more about like technical stuff rather only brand building, that was a great decision because I see how active you are. And Lauren, you was incredibly helpful and very expert in the way you addressed all the questions and also add some more creative vision and creative advice on every question. Thank you,
Yes.
ladies. Thanks, everyone. And enjoy the rest of your day, night if you're in Europe, and we will meet
And
in
good
2 weeks.
luck with your bookings. Yeah,
Yeah,
for
and good luck with
2026.
your SEO.
Looking
Yes,
Go
forward.
write
yes.
a blog post in the next 72 hours. All right.
Yes,
Have a great day and have a great progress in your website developments. Bye.
absolutely. See you soon, guys. See you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.